Welcome into episode number 30 of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. It will be the official season finale of Season 2 of the program, but never fear, don't worry. David Foote here, Brock Ormond as well. We'll continue to check in throughout the course of the summer, through July, through August, with some sporadic episodes as news breaks. And again, you can subscribe to the show wherever you listen to make sure you don't miss any of those episodes. We'd love a rating and a review as well. We feel like we've done some pretty good work over 30 episodes. If you agree, leave us a rating. We would much appreciate that. Tons on the show today. Tons of stuff happening in our season finale. It's been an extremely busy first week of free agency around the world of hockey. A plethora of signings affecting the Ottawa Senators organization, potentially affecting the Belleville Senators. We've got some coaching news. We've got a pretty big name headed out of town in a trade, and a whole lot more. The NHL draft has happened. We've got new prospects in the organization. Brock, you were off last week, and boy, you come right back to all this news to catch up on.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff, and to see all this movement is exciting and also bittersweet in a way too, because of, as you mentioned, the trade of a fan favorite, and also seeing a couple other fan favorites leave town. It's bittersweet and it's always tough, but as they say, that's the business of professional hockey, and the AHL club is bringing in some pretty good guys and solid players to fill in those gaps.
A couple fan favorites are back as well. Garrett Pilon signed a 2-year deal among them, so in our final segment of the show this week, we'll get you all of the latest news and notes around the roster situation. The schedule's coming out next week, we believe, if it's approved at the AHL Board of Governors meetings that are coming up. So, there's so much going on, and we're going to cram it all into this episode, or as much as we can anyway, and then, again, we will jump in with periodic episodes as we need to throughout the next couple months. We are also going to finish off our exit interview series this week. Phil Daoust, Tarun Fizer, Donovan Sebrango will be our guests, and Phil Daoust will be our first interview that we'll play here on episode 30 of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. And we've talked about Phil off and on throughout the season, mostly in a negative light in the sense that the kid has barely played. It's, a second season in a row with kind of a freakish injury, just a handful of games into the season. In 22-23, he only got into 9 games and was outstanding for Belleville. 7 points over that span before being hurt. Again, 2 points in 4 games this year before being injured. Also put up 5 points in 5 games in Allen. So you know that the skill is there. But just another difficult season for a young up-and-coming prospect like Phil Daoust.
Yeah, and the former St. John Sea Dog won a Memorial Cup, so he's got championship experience, but it's tough when you only play in 3 seasons combined, 28 games, and that's never going to be a good sign for a young professional. But he's still got time. That's the key thing with him, is he's got the time left. And Phil Daoust, like you said, has a lot of talent in his disposal, and he showed it in brief flashes. But unfortunately, for the Belleville Senators, those brief spurts are not going to be enough to really gauge what they really have in him. So for him, in particular, next season is going to be, this offseason first, but then into next season is training hard and really getting himself up to peak 110% shape if he wants to get in the lineup. And it seems like the Sens really have a lot of faith in him to be able to do that. And Coach David Bell will see what he can do in getting him into the lineup regularly next year. And that's key, especially for him, because of the fact that he hasn't played much over the course of the last few seasons. So really looking forward to seeing what he's got in store for next season, and hopefully things all go smooth sailing for him, because it's been tough for him.
Yeah, it's been difficult, and sometimes it can be difficult for the organization as well to kind of stick with a prospect, and not saying they're just going to cut ties because a guy is hurt, but Phil Daoust was in Belleville for the last couple months of the season. He was skating. He was around the team. He was, part of the group on the playoff run. And I think the biggest thing that, aside from his skill set that really leads the organization to continue to keep faith in him, is just his attitude. The amount of adversity he's faced the past couple of years, it'd be easy yourself to, get down on yourself and pack it in and not want to go through the rehab process, which is arguably far more difficult than staying healthy and training all the time, but he's done it with a smile on his face, with that focus of getting back on the ice and being productive and impactful, and I think that attitude just goes such a long way through a process like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that is a good point to make, that it's hard to really stay motivated when you have to do all that rehab. It's not just your simple, weights, cardio, legs, all that stuff for an hour or an hour and a half. It's pretty high intensity training, as I understand. So for Phil Daoust, doing that kind of stuff all the time can't be easy, but he does it, and like you say, did it with a smile on his face and stayed around the team, and that's probably key for him too, to understand what it's like to go through a season and see a little bit of a mini playoff run too, and it made him feel like more part of the team, which is absolutely what you want to have for a guy like that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear from Phil Daoust as we continue with our exit interview series from this 2023-24 season. Ottawa's 6th-round pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft, the Barrie, Ontario native, Phil Daoust. Unfortunately for you, pal, another injury-plagued season. It's been a little bit of a nagging thing for you the last 2 seasons. But how was the year? I mean, as it can be when you only get into a handful of games early on in the year.
Yeah, it was a long year. I mean, back-to-back shoulder injuries, it's never fun. But, the way I say it to people, it's just no more shoulder injuries. They're both good now. I'm still able to golf, so... I've been turning that corner. Shoulder's been coming along really well, starting to skate. And, early on this season, playing a couple games was really nice. Obviously, that rookie tournament was great. And when I came back here and played a couple games, I thought I played really well. And learned a lot when I went down to Allen. Got my confidence back up. So, need to have a big off season going in my last year of my deal. And just excited for next year.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because when you were in the lineup, you had 2 points in 4 games here. You had 5 points in 5 games in Allen. Even last season, 7 points in the 9 games you played before injury. How important is it, I guess, to have those opportunities to get your confidence up, especially maybe when things aren't really going your way?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, like I haven't had a lot of touches the last few years, so. For me, it was just obviously getting more ice time and more puck touches to get that confidence back. And I think once I got that in Allen, I was getting really comfortable with my game and felt really good that, coming back up here, obviously I know it's a higher level and a lot of better players, but, we had a really good team down here, so it was easy to, make plays with them. And, I think the staff over here, they help you out every day after practices, whatever it is. So, I thought it was pretty easy to get my confidence back up, but I think it doesn't just come off points. I think it also comes off, just feeling good about your game, both sides of the ice. And, I think I really developed that slowly throughout the first half of the year, and the injury happened, and obviously I'll get that confidence back this summer.
What about just like being around? I know not long after the injury you were gone for an extended period, but lately you've been here and skating and being around the group and still part of the team. How important is that for you in terms of your recovery and maybe just in terms of your development as well, and still being around every day and with the group?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, shoulder injuries or any kind of injuries where you got to get surgery. When you go home, you're sitting at home, you're not around the guys. It's hard. It's not fun. And, like coming into this year, I could tell it was a really good group of guys. We had a really good team, and I think this is probably the tightest group I've been a part of, and it was a lot of fun to be around. So even though I wasn't on the ice with them battling every day, I was just happy I could be around them and practice. And I think for the mental side, it was really good too, to just being able to come see the guys, joke around, go golfing with them a little bit was unbelievable. And the only thing I would probably change this year is not getting that injured.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you're one of the few guys, because there's not a lot that are locked in for next season with the Senators. Is it nice to kind of have that solidified spot? I guess you're going to be back here at least, if not in Ottawa, and be able to prepare for that now.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's going to be an interesting offseason, I think, for obviously Ottawa and us down here in Belleville. But it's definitely a good feeling knowing I have one more year on my deal. And for me, it's kind of like my final shot to obviously show that I can stay healthy and play good hockey. So, I just need to have a big off season, make sure I come in camp healthy and be ready to go.
What's the off season look like for you? You'll skate at home in Barrie, likely.
Yeah. I'll be. I got a good group down there in Barrie. Skate down in Muskoka with a bunch of NHL guys and a lot of European players. So, it's good. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, golf a bunch and be around family and friends. But I usually tend to come down in Belleville and skate and train with the staff down here and go to Ottawa for a little bit as well. So. It should be a good off season. Obviously, it's a little bit longer than we wanted to. Obviously, we had a good team, but I'll be ready to go for September.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind you will be. I've been watching you get ready here the last few weeks. Well, again, not enough games for you, but impactful nonetheless. And all the best with the summer training, and looking forward to seeing what you bring in September.
Yeah, thanks a lot, David. I mean, we all appreciate all the hard work you do, and have a good summer to you guys, and we'll see you guys soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
There's Phil Daoust, and again, we talked about the attitude, the mindset. Like, that doesn't sound like a guy who missed more than 3/4 of the season and only had a handful of points.
Yeah, he seems pretty confident that he's going to bounce back. He's going to be that impactful player that the Belleville Sens expect him to be. And like I said, Coach David Bell knows what he's like. He's been around him for the last 3 seasons, so he knows the kind of attitude and the kind of passion for the game he brings. And you heard him say he's skating in Barrie, skating in Belleville. He's skating all sorts of different ways to get back into game shape, and being around the team, like we had said before, certainly helps him in more ways than just one to get him back. So.
Also said he'd been golfing a little bit, so that means that the shoulders must be feeling all right
exactly,
if he's swinging and hitting the links. And he also said it's probably going to be an interesting offseason for the organization. And, boy, was Phil Daoust right. Again, later on in the show, we'll recap some of the moves from the past week or so. The NHL draft results for Ottawa. Development camp is wrapping up as we record this podcast. Lots more to talk about, plus an exit interview with Tarun Fizer when we come back from this short break. It's episode number 30, the season finale of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast.
Stay ahead of the game. Plan now for the next season of Belleville Senators hockey. 2024-25 renewals and new seat packages are on sale now. Visit BellevilleSens.com to receive information on pricing and learn about the exclusive benefits season seat members receive. Because you want to be in on all Sens hockey action. Plan to get in the game. More on season seat memberships at BellevilleSens.com. Go Sens, go!
Season finale of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. It's episode 30 of the season. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. We are wrapping up our 23-24 exit interviews over the next couple of segments. Tarun Fizer we'll hear from shortly, and then Donovan Sebrango after that. And then in our final segment this week, we will recap what's been one of the busiest weeks of free agency that I can think of, at least in my time being with the Belleville Senators for this organization. There's like 15 signings that the Sens have made, or transactions over the last week, or the last couple of weeks at least. We'll recap all of those. We'll discuss the Egor Sokolov trade. Jan Jenik coming in from the Utah organization, almost said Arizona, in exchange for Egor Sokolov. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the big free agent signings as well, all coming up later on in the program. For now, let's get to Tarun Fizer, another player in kind of a similar spot to Phil Daoust, career-wise, young guy, 23, but a little bit of a different path for Fizer because he was really unknown in the organization at about this time last year. Goes to the rookie tournament in Buffalo, scores a few times there, basically earns himself an AHL contract and now a full season, in the American Hockey League under his belt, which he didn't have before. What did you make of the season overall for Tarun Fizer, who did manage to put up 5 points in his first full campaign in the AHL.
Yeah, he got into those 30 games and didn't look too out of place, really. I mean, he played and spent a bit of time in the AHL prior to that with Colorado, but it was this season where he kind of had his breakout a little bit. Not so much points-wise, but he did chip in here and there, and he was a guy that was relied upon in the fourth line a bit to provide some solid minutes and to use his speed. And that's the biggest thing with him, was his speed was his biggest factor, and it caused a lot of trouble for opposing teams' defenses whenever the fourth line was churned out there. So Tarun Fizer was a solid-looking player, and he's the type of guy that could very well end up being a factor next season if he gets more ice and gets more playing time. And it's tough when you got all sorts of great professionals that want to get into the lineup. But yeah, he's a guy that can be trusted. And as Chestermere, Alberta native, getting his first goal, remember seeing it live right up high, nice little slide right along the ice. And again, he was shifty, cut to the outside and then slides it right through. That's pretty much the hallmark of Tarun Fizer's game, and I would imagine that now that he's got 30 games under his belt with Belleville, he'll have more experience, and it's valuable experience to want to make that next step in your career.
Yeah, scored that first goal, scored a pretty important one at the end of the season in Laval as well, which you'll hear at the end of the segment, spoiler alert. But this is a guy that likely, I would think, would end up on an AHL deal again, but not a bad player to put in the stable on a contract like that, to maybe go to the ECHL and help an affiliate team find some success. I mean, he had 50 points in 62 games with Utah in the ECHL in 22-23, so maybe that's kind of where he ends up fitting in if the Senators or another organization don't see a little bit more in him.
Yeah, now that's what his game was in junior, was putting up those points, and he did that, like you say, in the ECHL. And Allen, it was a good place to develop. We've seen plenty of guys benefit from time in Allen, like the Donovan Sebrangos and Levi Marilainens and different guys of that nature. So I have no doubt in my mind that Tarun Fizer will be a good guy to have in the system and a guy to nail down for 24-25 and hopefully another season after that. So, yeah, the ECHL is a great breeding ground for a lot of AHL stars, and we've seen some guys win Stanley Cups coming out of the ECHL, that ECHL to AHL, then to NHL path. So I'm looking forward to seeing how his development progresses and how he transitions to maybe hopefully a more fulfilling role, like a more role that's based more in Belleville, but
Sure.
We'll see what happens because there are, like you say, a lot of guys that are looking for spots and looking for ice.
And just on the ECHL note, I had a couple people chat with me about the East Coast Hockey League, and I have to remind people that it's not the East Coast Hockey League anymore. It's just the ECHL because they are on more than just the East Coast. So it's funny, I was doing a story probably on one of the Panetta brothers when I was still working at Quinny Broadcasting, and I had done the story, referred to it as the East Coast Hockey League, and the league actually got in touch and said, just so you know, it's just the ECHL. The letters don't really mean anything, which is an interesting tidbit for folks listening.
Yeah, right on that too. Like they're on it. They're passionate about like those people that work at the ECHL are unbelievable in how passionate they are about the league. And we've seen that this is not just a league for players that don't have any future. This is a league that really. It's almost like AA in baseball, where it's AA, then the AHL's AAA, and then the NHL's MLB kind of thing. So it works out well.
As important as that development is here in the AHL for the NHL club, the ECHL development can be just important.
Yeah.
Tarun Fizer is some proof of that, and we'll hear from him now on Season 2, Episode 30 of the Belleville Sens podcast. You made some headlines, I guess, last summer. You had the big rookie tournament performance. You signed your contract here to be with Belleville. You were one of the guys who was up and down to Allen, and then obviously played a handful of games, 30 games still in the AHL. How did you feel about your season overall this year?
I had a great time. It was a good learning experience for me. It was my first time actually really spending time in the American League, obviously, so being a young guy, it's tough sometimes when you're not in the lineup, but I made a lot of good friends on this team, and I had a great time, so it was a good year.
Yeah, and again, like you say, you were able to get into 30 games, 5 points over that span. How was the, I guess, adjustment to being a more regular player in the AHL compared to the handful of games you'd played in previous seasons.
Yeah, it's a lot faster, this league, than the East Coast League. Guys are stronger, guys are faster. No one really makes too many mistakes, so it's just tough. You got to take advantage of every opportunity you get, and sometimes you don't do that, and sometimes you do. So
yeah. And this group made some pretty big strides, as a club this season. Obviously, you didn't play in the playoffs, but got to be part of that run still. Do you, kind of like I talked about with Bush a little bit ago, even if you're not in the lineup, are you still kind of absorbing and learning things being such a young player in this league?
Oh, for sure. Obviously, we got a lot of good hockey players on our team, and watching them play hockey, you get better. Like, Peels is a great guy to model a game after. He plays such a good pro game, so watching guys like him, Kerr, all those guys that have been around the league and won championships before, it's good to learn off those guys for sure. Yeah,
a nice role model kind of example of, I guess, how you got to conduct yourself and the things you need to do right to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about being here in Belleville for the year? What did you think of the town, the city, the area? You find some good spots, or?
Yeah, I think this place gets a little bit of a bad rep.
Yeah.
Sometimes the boys like to joke that it's the worst place on earth, but it does get tough sometimes in the winter when it's really cold outside. A lot of dark days and playing video games all day, but right now, like, getting out, we go to the county like every day. It's been super nice the last week and a half, so go out to the county, go out to some of those wineries, some of those breweries. It's a really good spot, so I'm going to stick around for a couple days, so I'm going to go check out some more wineries and stuff that are out in the county.
Yeah, and those dark winter days playing video games, they're going to happen anywhere.
Exactly.
I think, anyway, right?
Exactly.
For sure. What's the game of choice for?
Call of Duty. We play a lot of Warzone on our couple of guys on our team.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a big one. What about the rest of the summer? What do you have planned? Maybe aside from training and preparing for 2024-25.
I got a couple weddings that I got to go to this summer, so those are the first for me. So
anywhere fun or?
No, one's back home and one's in Toronto. So
okay, yeah, I think I know that Toronto one. Perhaps maybe what's going on. Cool. Yeah, no vacation plans, anything like that.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna try and stay home,
stay close
as
to
long
home
as I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you skate with in the summertime?
He's a guy that I've been working with since I was 12 years old. He's the assistant coach in Okotoks Oilers in the AJHL. So just go home, skate with him, work out with one of the trainers that I had in Victoria, and everything's nice and close. We got a golf course 2 minutes away from me, so I'll have a great summer.
Yeah, perfect. Just settle in there. Well, appreciate you taking the time here, and all the best through the summer and in preparation for next season.
All the best to you as well.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, man. So Tarun Fizer, one of a handful of players not re-signed by the Belleville Senators, but he referenced Garrett Pilon and just the impact that a player like that can make. On a young player. There's going to be a whole bunch of veteran guys in this locker room this year that will be able to help the Senators' young players learn, adapt, and grow in the AHL. And again, Tarun Fizer, I think in terms of a year for development, I think it was a good one for him. Battled injuries, probably didn't play as much in the AHL as he would have liked, but that 30 games will serve him pretty well for whatever is coming next for the young man from Chestermere.
Yeah, absolutely, and a good guy to monitor game after Garrett Pilon, and he's back for 2 years now, so that really helps. And Tarun Fizer's got the right mindset for sure to be an AHL guy, and he said about how the game's maybe a smidge faster in the AHL and a few less mental mistakes or errors in terms of passing and all that and positioning versus the ECHL. So it sounds like he's pretty confident. He feels like he's really fit into the AHL style of play very well, which is a good sign, and hopefully he'll find his way back here. And even if he doesn't, then he'll be well served to be anywhere else in the AHL.
And hopefully his bags aren't overweight from all the wine he picked up in the county that he's trying to fly back out west with as well.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was down there a lot. So, And for good reason, of course.
Yeah. The wine in the county is always you got to get it. If you're over there, you got to get it, because especially if you're someone that hasn't been down this way often, like it's pretty much the thing that the county's known for. So
yeah, and also he probably drove home. I think he might have even carpooled with Cole Reinhardt or something like that. So either way, that's Tarun Fizer. We mentioned earlier on he scored 2 goals for Belleville this season. The second one pretty important in the season finale in a game in Laval. We'll leave you with that. Donovan Sebrango joins us when we come back to episode 30 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Here's Bongiovanni now behind the goal. He'll center it. It's right there. They score. Tarun Fizer on the doorstep, and we're tied at 1.
Bongiovanni, what a player he has become. He makes such...
Don't miss 1 second of Belleville Senators action this season. The Belleville Sens Entertainment Network is the only place to hear live coverage of the Belleville Senators for all 72 games plus playoffs. Pre-game coverage begins 15 minutes before each game with David Foote, and the network is also home to the Belleville Sens podcast, the Belleville Senators Entertainment Network, presented by Deer Haven Farm and Garden. Tune in on the Belleville Sens app or BellevilleSens.com.
Episode number 30 of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast, rolling on here from Belleville Sens headquarters, the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. We decided to stay out of the rink and take a look outside here from the office on Canifton Road. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. Thanks again to Tarun Fizer and Phil Daoust for joining us as part of our exit interview series. A couple months ago just about, and we've got one more exit interview to play for you in this segment, and that will be Donovan Sebrango, the defenseman who was acquired in the Alex DeBrincat trade last year, came to the Senators organization, Ottawa born, kind of raised in the Kingston area, so has some local ties, so we'll chat with him on this segment of the show, and then the next segment will get you as up to speed as we can on all of the roster moves made by the Senators in this first week of free agency. Some really big names coming to the organization, potentially landing in Belleville. So we'll touch on all that. Plus, of course, the Egor Sokolov trade. I know there's a lot of people who are bummed to see Soko go, but we'll get into that a little bit in our next segment. Let's talk about Donovan Sebrango, though, here, Brock. A guy who maybe I think some fans would have known about because of his time with Team Canada at the World Juniors in 2021-22. He's been in the American Hockey League for the past few seasons after being drafted in the 3rd round by Detroit. And again, you pick up a player like this in a deal for a player like Alex DeBrincat, and I think the expectation immediately kind of rises a little bit on the player who's acquired, at least for me. And Donovan Sebrango seemed to deal with those expectations pretty well. Took him a little bit to get in the lineup, but once he did, he seized that opportunity, and I think come playoff time, he was one of Belleville's best blue liners for my money.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, David. Sebrango was a guy that noticeably advanced his game and improved quite a bit because he was down on the depth chart defensively, about 6th, 7th, 8th at the start of the year, and got some time in Allen again. There's that ECHL tie again, and then all of a sudden he starts seeing more ice because of injuries and veteran limitations, I guess, if you will. And then he gets in and plays unbelievable. The last couple months of the season, he was outstanding. You could kind of see the foreshadowing to his playoff performance against Toronto and Cleveland. Scored his first AHL goal in the playoffs in that second game, and against the Marlies, and it was just a clean shot too, and you could see the shot really improved over the course of the year as well, along with the rest of his game, which is outstanding. And he played a really exceptional, strong defensive style of game that really fit well in the American Hockey League. And of course, like you say, that World Junior experience shows that he's got experience playing in those massive games that really can tell the difference or make the difference between being, a potential top 4 defenseman and a guy that maybe kind of shifted down the depth chart. So he made David Bell, he forced him almost to play him, and not that David wouldn't have played him already, but certainly, Sebrango really earned his ice this year, and and I could see him being a potential top 4 guy if all the cards are played right for him this year.
Well, and you mentioned what he did in the playoffs. 3 points in 7 playoff games. He dressed in all 7 postseason games for the Sens this year. A lot of it to do with the fact that Dillon Heatherington was injured. And, again, not easy shoes to step in and fill. Not to say he's going to do everything exactly that Dillon Heatherington does and brings to the lineup, but you still have to eat the minutes of the big diesel, a guy who's the steadiest, arguably, defenseman on the team, and he did that well, plus got to show a little bit of that offensive flair that we know he has.
Yeah, for sure, and the confidence to be put in the shoes of a guy like Dillon Heatherington, I'm not going to say it made Heater expendable, but it certainly didn't hurt to have a younger guy like Sebrango in the lineup constantly, and it seemed like all the great coaching from David Bell and his staff last year really paid off for him, and by the postseason he was one of the team's better defensemen, and that's really saying a lot when he was basically an ECHL guy and was also facing injuries too at the start of the year. So that's outstanding stuff from him, and really look forward to seeing what he can accomplish in 24-25 because he is under contract.
He is under contract. Again, we will run through the players who are signed and the new additions and everything in our next segment. But for now, a guy who is just really pumped to be part of the Senators organization, to be here in the Bay of Quinte region until he makes that jump to the NHL. Donovan Sebrango is our final guest as part of our exit interview series on the Belleville Sens podcast here on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. Continuing on with our exit interview series for 2023-24, we're with Sens defenseman Donovan Sebrango, finishing his first year as a Senator after being acquired last summer in a trade with Detroit. Thanks for taking some time, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How was your first season as a Senator, if you had to wrap it all up?
I think it kind of sum it all up was probably my favorite year of pro hockey so far this year. And, from the coaches to the group of guys we had to just kind of everything about the organization, by far the best year of pro I've had and most favorite so far.
Yeah, and I know you've got a lot of connections to the Ottawa area. I know you spent some time in Kingston as well. How nice was it to be a part of this organization, one that's so close to home for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think once I saw the trade happen, I remember telling my mom right away that I'm going to make this work and I'm going to make them proud for trading for me. But coming back to my old area where I grew up, it's kind of every kid's dream, and I'm grateful for every moment of it.
Yeah, you didn't play as much early in the season, obviously got a lot of time late and in the playoffs as well. How was that kind of progression for you in working your way into the lineup and then being able to show that you belong and that you're an everyday player here?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I love this group, and I made a promise to myself, whatever this group needed me to do, I'd do for them. So, just kind of getting the opportunity to play. We lose our captain, and I have to go in. So, I didn't want to. I just wanted to do my job the right way. Going for our captain and play as long as we could till we could get him back. But the coaching staff had trust in me, and I could feel they had trust in me, and that goes a long way when you're stepping into the lineup. But I love this group and I love the coaching staff, so it was easy kind of stepping in.
You had some excellent production in the playoffs, couple of goals, couple of big ones as well, the one in Toronto, one in Cleveland as well. What was the playoff experience like for you? I know you played in the ECHL playoffs as well. What was it like to be a part of what was too short of a run, but a run nonetheless?
Yeah, I think it was incredible. I think the frustrating part is just I think this team was special, and I think we just didn't get our bounces. But, this was a special team, but, every moment of the playoffs, I had a blast with this team, and I would do it all over again. But incredible experience, and just kind of hope next year to go a little farther.
Yeah, what does the summer look like for you in terms of preparing for next year, and maybe as well in terms of getting away from hockey for a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'll start by going to see my mom's family. I got some pets. I got to go see dogs, take care of them for a bit, and then I'll head down to Ottawa, train with those guys. Be around NHL players where we all want to be, just work out, train with them, see how they kind of go about their day, and from there we'll go into camp and be ready to go.
Yeah, any travel plans or anything like that?
You know what, not right now, but see what comes up.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Was there a highlight to the season for you?
highlight. As corny as it sounds, every day coming into this group, I mean, is a memory I'll cherish. I mean, this group is something special, and I mean, I wish we could, or hope we could have every single player come back.
Yeah.
But this group, every day walking into the rink, I had the best time.
Yeah, it was a blast of a season for sure. And again, you made a huge impact late in the year. We're really glad to have you along all season, and looking forward to having you back, whether it's here or in Ottawa next season as well. So congrats on a great season, Donovan.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back with more of our exit interview series for 23-24 here on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. All right, Donovan Sebrango wraps up our exit interview series. Thanks to all the players for taking their time on Clean Out Day to sit down and chat with us. Thanks to Garrett Harvey for helping us out on the video side of things. And again, if you want to see any of those interviews again and you don't feel like listening back to a full episode, or you would like to visually see things, head to the Belleville Sens YouTube page as part of the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network, and all of those interviews are up there for you to see and watch again and share some memories from the season, because there were a lot of them, and we'll touch on some of those as well in our next segment. But just one more thought on Donovan Sebrango. We talked about attitude with Phil Daoust, and it's something that obviously the scouting staffs are looking at when they're identifying players and prospects, but this is another guy. He's just got a great attitude, comes to the rink, he's happy every day, and Donovan Sebrango's a bit of a gym shark too. I mean, I think some of the guys in the office who work out have seen him at Good Life. I used to see him in the hotel gym on a game day where he's already had his morning skate, and it's just like he's an animal. He just wants to be going all the time, and his sister's a pretty accomplished power lifter as well, so great guy to have back. We're looking forward to seeing how Donovan Sebrango can build on the foundation he set this year.
Yeah, that separates the men from the boys, to be sure, when you're in the gym that much and weightlifting and doing all sorts of things to help you increase speed or increase strength or conditioning. But that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's in all seriousness, you have to take that extra step and be just that much greater and be part of that physical side of things if you want to advance in your hockey career, and that goes for any sport, but in hockey specifically, when you got a guy like him that's in the gym all the time, training, working out, if you don't get into the gym often or at least keep yourself active, then you're going to fall behind pretty fast, and I think people have figured that out. So Donovan Sebrango, a guy picked up in a trade from Detroit, and he's been just outstanding, and really looking forward to seeing him back this year.
He said he would love it if everybody on the roster from 23-24 could come back again. Unfortunately, that's a very difficult thing to do. It won't be the case. Everybody won't be back, but some key pieces will be, along with some key new additions. We will recap all of that. A very, very busy first week of free agency when we come back for our final segment on the season finale of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Wide, McKinnon's got some time on the right point. Good pass across. Sebrango shoots and scores!
Are you kidding me, David? What a shot!
What a pass from Ryan McKinnon from the right side point, diagonal to the left circle to Donovan Sebrango, and a first Calder Cup playoff goal for the boy from Ottawa to get Belleville back within one.
David on the line.
Stay ahead of the game. Plan now for the next season of Belleville Senators hockey. 2024-25 renewals and new seat packages are on sale now. Visit BellevilleSens.com to receive information on pricing and learn about the exclusive benefits season seat members receive. Because you want to be in on all Sens hockey action. Plan to get in the game. More on season seat memberships at BellevilleSens.com. Go Sens, go!
Sokolov tries, he scores! Sokolov scores into the empty net. The Sens are going to win in Well, by now everybody knows that goal. Egor Sokolov scoring in the empty net in the home finale of the most recent 2023-24 AHL season. That sealed Belleville's home ice advantage in the first round, which arguably helped them to get past the Toronto Marlies in 3 games and into that series with the Cleveland Monsters that did not end the way we wanted. Egor Sokolov scoring that goal. Egor Sokolov scoring a pile of important goals this season, last season, the season prior. This guy has basically been, the top of the list in terms of fan favorites and impactful players for this group. And unfortunately, Brock, as we continue on with episode 30 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast, it's not happy news for Egor Sokolov fans to pass along. He was traded this week for Jan Jenik from Utah. And Egor Sokolov era over here with the Senators. Tough to see a guy like that go, but I think whenever you get into a situation like this, as a fan of the player, you kind of have to look at the opportunity that's ahead and just say, hey, I hope you can make the most of it.
Yeah, and with a newish organization, still some guys back from Arizona, but Utah is pretty much a blank slate for a guy like Egor Sokolov, and he says he wants to push it, keep pushing forward, and he's got some time, a bit of time with Ottawa in the NHL, but for him it's a fresh start, and he's been pretty open about the fact that it's just it worked out really well here in Belleville, but with Ottawa, just he didn't seem to really stick it out. So fresh start for him, and a fresh start for Jan Jenik coming the other way too from the Tucson Roadrunners. He had a pretty decent season there last year, but Egor, a lot of great memories from him over the last 4 years, 3 in Belleville, because his first year was during the COVID bubble in Ottawa. But he quickly became a fan favorite coming down here. The people just took to him very well. Got a great overall outlook, and in terms of you've been out, David, with him with the school visits and the fan visits, and Egor Sokolov was usually one of the first guys in line to be a part of that, and he knows he gets what it takes to be an overall professional. On the ice, he takes care of business, but off the ice as well, he's making a lot of memories and a lot of people very happy, and that's why it's so tough. It's tough when you got a guy that really takes the fan part of things and runs with it, and
sure.
and develops that relationship. So that makes it even tougher when you got a guy like him that leaves. But again, like I say, you got to find that fine balancing act, because for him it's a great opportunity to try it out and make a new life for himself in Utah. But for us here in Belleville, very difficult to see him take off, but they got a good player for him like Jan Jenik from Czechia that looks to be a pretty good fit in this lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Egor Sokolov leaves the Belleville Sens as the franchise's all-time leader in games played at 240, goals at 76, assists at 104, points at 180. He's also on a few other lists, just not leading for this club. He will obviously be a fan favorite for a long time. He'll go into that the history books as, I think, one of those legends of this club, and we wish Egor Sokolov all the best moving forward, and a hearty mazel tov as well, because he gets married this weekend. So,
congratulations.
That wedding in Toronto that a lot of the guys were talking about over their exit interviews, I believe that's the one they're talking about.
There it is.
So,
yep, spoiler alert.
So that's happening this weekend. Yeah. And look, you talk about how tough it is to lose somebody who is embedded in the community and really takes the fans into account. And again, the great news is there are still so many of those guys still on the team, still in the lineup, so many familiar faces back. Guys like Angus Cruikshank, Cole Reinhardt, and Max Gaudette, they become the 3 longest-serving Belleville Senators to this point, depending on how many games they play here as opposed to Ottawa. Rhino is chasing Sokolov in terms of that games played record, and frankly, he would have probably beat him or been around the same if not for Cole Reinhardt's injuries through this season as well. You've got Garrett Pilon, who we mentioned is back for 2 years, so like this time next year, you won't have to worry about is Garrett Pilon coming back, because he will be, unless there's a trade, which I don't see happening. There are a lot of guys that can fill that hole, and a lot of good players coming in as well that can fill the on-ice void, if you will, that's left by the departure of a player like Egor Sokolov.
Yeah, and then getting Pilon back was absolutely massive because he scored that big goal to win that series against Toronto, and he scored some big goals during the season as well to really help Belleville's cause along. And he's captain material, to say the least. And Tarun Fizer mentioned him earlier about a guy to look up to and model your game after. And yeah, Garrett Pilon's a great guy to do that. I couldn't have thought of anybody better, really, on this Belleville Sens team next to a guy like Angus Crookshank, who had a lot of adversity coming back from injuries before. So, and Pilon, yeah, he's fit this city very well, much like an Egor Sokolov did and has. And now he's coming back, and with that championship experience that you can't really buy. And from the Hershey Bears in 22-23, his old team won again this year, so that's congratulations to them. But now Pilon wants to seeing the back-to-back, and now he wants to be that igniter for this Belleville Sens team that we know he can be, and he's shown it this past season. 47 points this year, and now he's coming back looking to add on to that. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be the type of guy to stay in the lineup pretty regularly and be that igniter that we think he can be.
And it could be in the conversation for captain of the Belleville Senators, because as we get through the departures, another tough one to lose. Dillon Heatherington signing an AHL contract in San Diego with the Gulls, the affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. And Belleville will have to have a new captain after 3 years of Dillon Heatherington leading things. Again, a good opportunity for him. And I think, again, as the American Hockey League goes and as organizations grow and develop, the writing was maybe on the wall for a guy who's played as many games as Dillon Heatherington has, that he may need to find a new opportunity because of the young blue liners that are coming up through this organization. And we can't thank Heater enough for what he's done as captain of this franchise for the past few seasons. And like with Egor, we wish him all the best in San Diego. Thankfully, we won't have to deal with him.
No, that's right. He won't have to deal with his bruising physical style that he's known for. He's all the way out west now. So in San Diego, getting a new opportunity there. And again, San Diego's getting a great AHL vet. He's a guy that's been around for a while. Another guy with championship experience from the old Lake Erie, now Cleveland Monsters, winning a Calder Cup there. So San Diego is getting a great defenseman that'll help that budding young group as well, because the Duck system is erring on the greener side as well. So wish Dillon all the best and hope that he stays out of this east side of things in the AHL.
Other departures that we've talked about in recent weeks, Jacob Larson going back to Europe, signing with Rapperswil Jona in Switzerland. Talk about bruising, and a guy that the Senators will have to deal with at least once, likely. Again, schedule should be out in the next couple of weeks, but Boko Imama signing with the Penguins organization this past week. So Boko and Soko both gone, and again, Sens fans will get to see Imama likely should we match up with Wilkes-Barre again this year, but another tough loss.
Yeah, Boko. That's one that's probably going to hurt. Marcus, remember back in the playoffs when they were doing the live cut-ins from Boston Pizza with the fan party, and literally about half, I'd probably say about close to 3/4 of the fans said when Tim Durkin asked, "Who's your fan favorite? Who's your favorite player?" Like 3/4 of them said Boko Imama, which is incredible for a guy that again didn't play in every game, wasn't really a high scorer, but yet he captured people's hearts and imaginations, and his personality fit this rough and tumble team and area pretty well. It's very much a blue collar area still. Belleville and Quinny and Boko Imama fit that really, really well. And yeah, it's real sad to see him go. Another guy that really stepped his game up in the playoffs and showed what he can contribute offensively, even without fighting or without hitting. But his physical game was definitely his calling card, and that's going to really be sorely missed this year.
So Boko out to the Penguins organization, so he'll be in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, if not in Pittsburgh. Rourke Chartier's not made a decision on where he's playing next year, nor has Brennan Saulnier, Highmore, Reese, Reinhardt, Gaudette, Pilon. We mentioned they're all back. Lassie Thompson has gone to Malmo in Sweden. Yuri Smekel back to Czechia. Ryan McKinnon signed in Slovakia. And Graham McPhee has not decided where he's playing yet. The only two contracts in terms of restricted free agents for Ottawa to deal with now are the goaltenders, Kevin Mandalese and Matt Sogard. So we'll see where things end up with those guys in hopefully the next week or so. I can't imagine Steve Staios wants to take too much time in locking those guys up. So those are all the guys who are back, familiar names that are either returning or leaving. Now let's get into the 5 or 6 players who've been acquired by the organization this week, mostly by signings. Jan Jenik, we mentioned in that Egor Sokolov trade, but let's maybe start with what I would consider, should he end up in Belleville, kind of the crown jewel, the big piece of the offseason moves on the AHL side, as American Hockey League leading goal scorer from last season, Adam Gaudette, is returning to the Senators, played in Ottawa for 50 games a couple of years ago, lit it up in Springfield last year, and now could be doing the same here in Belleville this season.
Yeah, did he ever. 44 goals, and he was Springfield's most dangerous offensive threat, so that's a massive loss for the Thunderbirds organization. He's familiar with the North Division, having played also with the Toronto Marlies and Maple Leafs up in the NHL, so he's no stranger to this side of things at all, and I think that'll make the transition for him a lot easier to come in and play with this, whether it is with Belleville, whether it's with Ottawa. We hope he gets some time in Belleville, because he's a big offensive threat, and that should add a little more of a weapon and kind of do a good job of filling in the hole left potentially by Egor Sokolov and a couple other guys. So
he went to Northeastern University, incredible player in the NCAA. Last season, gets to the AHL All-Star Classic for the first time, named to the to the league's first All-Star team at the end of the season, and as we mentioned, the Willie Marshall Award for most goals in the AHL at 44. That will be a massive addition, should he not crack the Senators lineup. He did play in 2 games in St. Louis last season, and hasn't played in the NHL outside of those 2 games since 21-22, when he played 58 games between Ottawa and Chicago, and also represented Team USA at the World Championship that year. So this is a guy with pedigree and skill, and should he not find his way into the Ottawa lineup in training camp, he will be the number 1 forward in terms of goal scoring for the Belleville Sens this season, and will complement, I think, this lineup really nicely.
Yeah, absolutely, and having him and a guy like Garrett Pilon on each side is going to be pretty impressive, and pretty much a nightmare for opposing teams' goaltenders with how those guys can shoot. And really looking forward to seeing the progression for Adam Gaudette, and a guy with, like you said, pedigree, NHL experience, lots of AHL success as well. So I'm excited to see how he's going to be utilized this year.
Next up on the free agent list, you lose some physicality, lots of physicality in Boku Imama, but the Sens wasting no time in getting some back. Steve Staios signing Hayden Hodgson to a 2-way NHL contract this season. He played in 49 games for the Ontario Reign, the AHL affiliate of the LA Kings last season. 28 years old from Windsor, big bruiser, 300-plus penalty minutes in 5 seasons in the AHL. So here's your new enforcer.
Yeah, there you go, and that's a good guy to have as your physical presence up there, and like we say, usually when one guy goes out, another guy goes in to fill the role. That's usually how things work from both sides of things. And Hayden Hodgson, a guy with, again, quite a bit of experience, a guy coming from out west, so he's going to be new to the north and kind of trying to figure everything out and what's to come. But that's a guy that, again, you don't have, as Boko Imama show, you don't have to always be a top scorer or a high-flying offensive threat to be a contributor on a team, and he'll definitely be a guy that contributes well in the top 9 and throws his body around, and that's what a team needs. Even though the game is shifted more towards skill and speed, it doesn't hurt to have a guy to lay the body and have a little grit and sandpaper once in a while. So that's going to be a good fit, and Coach Bell will like having him in that lineup, I would imagine, and keeps the opposing teams honest, which is what you always want to have.
Yeah, 16 points in 49 games, plus 116 PIMs last season, but still finished with a +6 rating. So, again, a guy who can do it at both ends of the ice when needed. the OHL fans, the old Belleville Bulls fans might remember Hayden Hodgson because he played with the Erie Otters and the Sarnia Sting. He also played with Saginaw. That was after the Bulls left town. But again, a familiar name who's crawled up the pipeline and lands back here in the friendly city to provide a little grit for this team.
Yeah, that's big. And yeah, you know, his OHL days pretty much the same way he plays now. He hasn't changed, and he's going to be the type of guy that maybe becomes a fan favorite like a Boko Imama. And once next season rolls around, you know, people will still be thinking of him and seeing him, like I say, with potentially Wilkes-Barre Scranton. But Hayden Hodgson will be a good fill-in and good fit for this lineup.
A few more minutes here on this season finale of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote, Brock Ormond, we're chatting about the new additions to the roster, and we'll continue to key in on some of these guys through the rest of July and August as we more sporadically publish episodes, some off-season updates. So again, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe there as well. We'll tack on these episodes in the Season 2 playlist on the YouTube page, though they'll technically be part of a separate off-season update section. But that's also semantics at the end of the day. You lose Jacob Larsson. If we want to go back to the blue line here for a sec, big Swedish defenseman. Well, they got another one coming in. Filip Roos, who's from Gothenburg, 25 years old, played in Rockford with 4 games in Chicago last season, had 17 games in the NHL with the Blackhawks the season before, and will, again, I think, fill that hole left by Jacob Larsson. Roos is a pretty big boy, 6'4", close to 200 pounds, and will be able to hopefully slide right in and provide that back-end support that the Sens will need to be successful.
Yeah, good left shot defenseman. Again, another guy with, like you say, a bit of NHL experience, 21 games with the Hawks. And, yeah, with Rockford, a guy that's just not going to be too flashy, a no-nonsense type of defenseman. 16 points last year in Rockford. And yeah, he's just going to be a steady presence, much like a Jacob Larsson was. Larsson could run a power play pretty well, and I guess the jury's still out on what Filip Roos can do in terms of the special teams and various roles that Coach Bell will have him put in. But yeah, he's a guy that will fill a spot pretty well and won't make too many glaring mistakes. So just play a simple, no-nonsense game, and sometimes it's all you need from a defenseman. And again, part of a European influx of defensemen that have been in this Belleville organization and Ottawa organization for the last few years, with the likes of Larsson, Nicholas Montempalo, Lassie Thompson, and a few others. So.
And more help coming on the blue line as well. A familiar name if you've been following the North Division, and in particular the Senators' exploits against the Rochester Americans, as Belleville signs Jeremy Davies to a two-way contract, or Ottawa signs him to a two-way contract. 27-year-old from St. Anne de Bellevue, Quebec. Again, played with Rochester all of last season. Nice offensive upside to this guy. 35 points in 66 games in 23-24. That was up from 23 points in 66 games with Rochester in 22-23. He is a playoff contributor. He has at least 2 points in each of their last 2 playoff runs. He had 6 points in 9 playoff games with Milwaukee a few seasons ago. A name that maybe doesn't leap off the page, but a player who certainly does.
Yeah, well, I certainly remember his name, Jeremy Davies, and how smooth of a skater he was, and how, offensively he really made big contributions the last couple of years for the Rochester Americans, and that Buffalo system certainly breeds good young defensemen and good young players, but now he's getting a chance in the Ottawa system and Belleville system to see what he can do. And I could really see him stepping in and being, a top 4 defenseman because of his veteran status and being an offensive contributor, possibly the main offensive contributor from the blue line. And yeah, it's one of those things where you have to kind of see how things all transpire. But Jeremy Davies is going to be an interesting player to watch because of his experience. He's got college experience as well. Played in a few games, 23 in Nashville, and now he's coming here at the AHL. He's been around a couple different organizations, and now he's got an opportunity to be a Belleville Senators star defenseman. And then fill in that role left by a Lassie Thompson and Jacob Larson because they provide that offensive drive in past couple seasons, and now Davies gets his opportunity in 24-25 for Belleville.
So those are a couple upgrades on the blue line for the Senators. Again, we'll have a full recap of all these moves posted next week, but you can find them on the news tab at BellevilleSens.com. Two more players to check in on, and then we have some coaching news to announce as well. Let's first go with Jan Jenik, who is the return in the Egor Sokolov trade. And for all the fans, Brock, who are maybe upset that Egor Sokolov is moving on, what are the Senators getting back in a guy like Jan Jenik? How much of a difference maker could he potentially be?
Yeah, he's an offensive guy with quite a bit of upside. He's got good speed as well, and much like a very similar situation to that of Egor in the Arizona, now Utah system. It just nothing really seemed to pan out for Jan Jenik, but he former Hamilton Bulldog in the Ontario League. Comes in. He did get spotty games in Arizona throughout the last few seasons, but he comes in and brings a lot of skill and a lot of overall talent and a good head for the game, and a guy that always knows where to be when he's in the offensive zone, and he'll maybe get worked at playing a more two-way game, but he's a guy that, again, represents Czechia at the World Juniors, played at home for a bit, played junior here, so he's no stranger to Canada. So he's coming back kind of to almost where it all started in Hamilton and back in the Ontario Hockey League days. And yeah, the speed and the skill is going to be something to really watch for. And we'll see if maybe he works himself out here in the Ottawa Belleville system. But I'm sure that fans will grow to like him, especially being that he's again getting a fresh start, much like Egor is out in Utah. So excited to see how he pans out.
A guy who is likely familiar with Ottawa GM Steve Daoust from that Hamilton time, as you mentioned. Right. And, I mean, in his last season in the O was outstanding, 56 points in 27 games, 22 goals, 34 assists. And, again, last season, 16 goals, 20 assists over 55 games. So he will, again, just add to the depth and the size. I think he seems like a guy, from what I've seen, that can use the body maybe a little bit more frequently than Egor did. And, allow himself to create some space for his teammates that way. So I think that's a good trade, again, with two players, like you say, Brock, that are in similar situations. Sometimes you just need a change of scenery to really take that next step. So a good opportunity for both these guys.
Yeah, and like you said, the Steve Daoust connection probably helps as well. So he knows, the GM knows what he's getting, and so you can trust in Steve's word that this guy's going to be an impactful player. And if he does end up landing in Belleville, then 23, turning 24 years old in September. So he's got some time, and he'll be a guy that really will hopefully turn heads. But I can see him being very impactful for Belleville as a second-line guy.
All right, and the last signing that we want to talk about, this is an AHL signing. It was done a week or so ago, and the Belleville Sens signing goaltender Michael Simpson to a one-year AHL contract. The London and Peterborough alumnus in the OHL is from London, 21 years old, rookie goaltender, heck of a prospect, outstanding numbers at the Memorial Cup the last two seasons, back-to-back OHL championships. This is a kid that, despite being undrafted, obviously has some pedigree, and good on, I think, the Senators for identifying that and taking a shot on a kid like this.
Yeah, one of those guys that's it's amazing to me how he would slip through the cracks like that when he's done so well, and he's got the record to prove it. Back-to-back league championships in the Ontario League with Peterborough, then with London, then two Memorial Cup stints, and with what he's done, it's incredible to think. And you think of all these guys that are drafted, all these guys that get signings, and at 20 years old, Simpson gets passed over multiple times, and then Ottawa Belleville swoop in to grab him, and it's just incredible to think what he can do. And again, he's going to be maybe third guy on the depth chart at least, but if he can get some time with the Belleville Sens and be key and get tested with those AHL level shots, then I think he's going to be a fine goaltender moving forward in the future because of again the pedigree, the record, and the championship experience. Because not many guys can say they even won one junior championship or been to a national championship. Never mind 2 back-to-back with 2 different teams, including his hometown team last year. So he's riding on a high right now, and then he gets his AHL deal, and everybody's excited to see him and see what he can do. And hopefully he'll be landing here in Belleville as a one of the top 2-3 goalies in the system. So good on him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
2 OHL titles with 2 pretty historic franchises in that league as well, in London and Peterborough. And we know our Belleville Sens fans in the Peterborough area are always excited to see former Petes come through. So, should he prove himself and should there be a spot here, we'll see Michael Simpson here in Belleville this season or potentially developing in the ECHL. Either way, he signs that deal, gets to develop himself for another season in pro hockey. So lots of signings. Again, you can keep an eye on who is left and who is returning via our off-season player tracker. We might have to add a section for new signings as well, but you can find all the new signings through our news releases at BellevilleSens.com. The last 2 people we have to talk about, changes behind the bench for the Belleville Sens. Dave Bell was extended for 2 years, which is outstanding for him. He did a media blitz last week talking to reporters from all over, Ottawa, here in town and elsewhere. And he's really excited to be back and to build on what he was able to set foundation-wise here this past season. But it'll be joined by a couple of rookie pro assistant coaches as Andrew Campbell joins the club from Brantford in the OHL, and Stefan Legion joins Belleville from Spokane in the WHL to be assistants to Dave Bell. A couple of guys who know their stuff, and you talk about opportunity, they're now getting theirs on the coaching side of things.
Yeah, the former AHL, ECHL guy, Stefan Legion, a former World Junior gold medalist too at Team Canada. He had experience with all 3 of the CHL leagues in coaching, so Mississauga Steelheads video coach, assistant coach of the QMJHL St. John Sea Dogs, won a championship there in his last year in 22, and then 2 years of the Spokane Chiefs out west. So you want to talk about running the gamut. Stefan Legion went through all 3 of Canada's major junior leagues, and now feels like he's ready to make that jump to the American Hockey League. And David Bell obviously thinks he can too, because he has built up that resume, and being joined by Andrew Campbell, 2 guys that have had lots of experience, and again, that championship background, as we talk about. And but for Stefan Legion in particular, a guy that dealt with some adversity in his junior career and early pro career with injuries, and never really he was drafted 2nd round in 2007 by Columbus, but never really could make that step to the NHL, never played a game in the NHL, and then he ends up transitioning to coaching, and it was pretty smooth sailing for him and doing all that work with the Sea Dogs and Spokane and getting that success. So again, you can never have too little championship experience, and Stefan Legion brings that as well from the coaching side, and so does Andrew Campbell too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's some nice additions for Dave Bell. There'll be lots of change to deal with, but again, a lot of familiarity back as well, and we're really looking forward over the next few weeks and next couple months to connecting you with some of those returning and new faces to the lineup. Again, another reminder that this is our Season 2 finale. Free agency is open, so we're going to turn our focus to 2024-25. We will have sporadic episodes over the next couple of months. And again, one more final reminder to subscribe to the show so you don't miss those episodes. You can also stay tuned to the Belleville Sens social feeds at Belleville Sens for any other signing news, any other staff announcements, whatever. You can find it all at BellevilleSens.com and on the social feeds at Belleville Sens. What a season it was. I mean, from October to now, so much has happened, so much always does. And again, I think we can say, again, pretty confidently, Brock, that this was a very successful season for the Belleville Senators. The excitement is building, and everybody already can't wait for October to roll around.
Yeah, it was a thrilling year for sure, and only one team can win a championship, which is unfortunate. But so that's why the Belleville Sens, all the positivity and all the great attitudes that we heard from over the course of the season and the exit interviews, and that a lot of these guys were thrilled at this season, and I mean, Coach Dave Bell says he's not satisfied. He wants to make that extra big push, and he feels he can do that with the new look team on the ice and also on his bench with Legion and Campbell. So I'm looking forward to next season. But this season was a great ride, and glad to be on board with you, David, riding shotgun on the podcast and on the broadcast as well, the games at home. So really excited and already eagerly awaiting the schedule coming out in what should be the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
so.
and it was great having you along as well, Brock. Appreciate all your hard work, too. Thanks to Tim Durkin, who's chipping in with us as well on the broadcast side through the season. And, of course, thanks to all of you for listening all season long. We did some record numbers on our live broadcasts on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. The podcast is continuing to grow. Again, a 5-star rating will help with that. But the main message, everything is moving forward, onward, and upwards towards October, and we can't wait until we get there. Once more, don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can get all those off-season updates as we roll through the next couple months. And until the next time we chat on the Belleville Sens podcast, for Brock Ormond, David Foote thanking you for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.